My wife cheated, calls it a mistake, thinks it shouldn't break us. We have been married for 8 years and have been together for 10 plus years. We have an 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old son. My wife is also the mother of 3 children from a previous marriage. When we initially moved in together, 2013, she resigned her job and was able to find an administrative position at the firm where I worked. During that time, she and this guy I knew from that business became friends, and he would carpool with her to the home and vice versa. I didn't think much about it when he would take time off and hang out at my place with me. I felt it was a good colleague connection. Before I met my wife, I knew the man. We had hung out together at Christmas parties, etc., he and his wife and me and my wife, girlfriend at the time, and it appeared like a pretty great relationship. My wife would tell me about what he told her, how his wife was pregnant, and so on and so forth, and I never made anything of it. My wife barely lasted about a year at that job. Except for social media, we never hear from man again. After a few years, I decided to leave my job in late 2017 to establish my own real estate firm. Everything has gone sour since I changed careers. Mostly because the first year I spent all of our funds to stay afloat, didn't generate enough money to replace my previous salary, and our lifestyle suffered as a result. To keep up with bills and house expenditures before my company could take off, I had to accept odd jobs and side jobs that didn't interfere with the start of my real estate profession. After we had our second kid, 2015, her oldest moved out, 2018, to attend college, and I started working in real estate. It was a whirlwind of events that strained our relationship. We no longer desire the same things. She would complain about my distance from her and how I was never in the home, which I confess caused me to fall into a deep melancholy, and I was in a pretty bad place. During my first year in real estate, in 2020, we had an altercation in which she claimed that she was needing attention since I wasn't offering it to her. We had stopped having for months at a period, and while I'm at home, my wife spends the whole day watching Netflix. She doesn't want to put the kids to bed, and she doesn't want to do anything else after she's done with work. And I spent much of my time browsing through my phone. After 3 cancellations, I decided to plan a journey to visit my mother. I asked her to accompany me, but she claimed she couldn't because she needed to quarantine before returning to work, and that I and the boys should go. I take my 2 sons to visit my mother. While I was gone, I got a strange sense from her. She was treating me as if we were friends on the phone and over IM, which was strange and unexplained. Long story short, when I return from my vacation, she tells me, "I believe you and I are in the process of splitting up. We haven't had, you don't appear to be happy, etc., etc., etc." I told her I was in a dark place and wasn't feeling emotionally well, mostly because of my relationship with her and how things weren't going as planned at work, but that I wanted to persevere, and that I think we still have a 50/50 chance of salvaging our marriage if that's how you feel. We begin the process of determining what we will do for our marriage and children, and I begin therapy for my depression. Long story short, I pull myself out of it once again by concentrating on job, exercise, and good diet. My business takes off in ways I couldn't have predicted, and while we're sleeping together and still married, trying to figure it out, I get a text from that dude's wife with all the screenshots of my wife and him talking, meeting up for lunches, calling each other babe, sending each other videos and pictures, her saying how much she loves his voice and how much he wants to see her, and so on. All of this nonsense happened while I was away, before we had the "I believe we're in the process of splitting up" chat. Even worse, there is a text from 2013, the day I proposed to her, in which she tells him that I just proposed to her and she had it with him. I phoned her, telling her we needed to speak about this guy, and asked if she'd met him. She says yes, and there is some serious kissing going on. I confronted her with photos of her and him in what seemed to be a home, and she refused to tell me where it was because it would make it sound worse than it is. I waited a day to process everything, and the following day I told her we were simply raising kids. I don't want to be with you, and I'm leaving as soon as we figure out what we're going to do with the kids. She informs me that this was my easy way out. WTH. I didn't go out and meet with an idiot who can't count to 100, is a terrible father to his children and wife, has been in prison, and is now on probation. Was kind enough to enable me to see this gentleman the next day. I ran into him in an office and kicked his A. He fled. I informed my wife that they both believed there would be no repercussions for their conduct. My wife and I spoke once I cooled down, and she felt it was simply a little error. Did I mention her last marriage ended in adultery on both sides? She had already given up on me in my mind before she ever told me. Her actions, in my opinion, spoke louder than her words. And now, I'm earning good money, have a great real estate business of 3+ years, have shed 20 pounds, and eat well. Reading, etc., and she sees how I've gotten myself out of despair and am doing well, and she thinks she should retain me. But I don't understand how we can go beyond that and return to loving one another when the greatest disrespect has been perpetrated. This thing is over in my mind, and I don't see it any other way. Story 2. My boyfriend 24 male says we are drifting apart and doesn't feel the same way towards me 22 female anymore. I'm not sure what advice I'll receive from this post, but I'm too embarrassed to approach my pals for help. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 2 years. However, it seems like it's been much shorter since we weren't able to see each other for many months due to the epidemic. He informed me today that he feels like we're drifting apart and that he doesn't have the same degree of sentiments as he had at the start of our partnerships. I was the one who said that we weren't conversing like we used to, so he expressed his feelings. He considers our dates to be a little inconvenience. He regarded them as an obligation that he must fulfill each week. I try to vary our dates and do other things, so I don't believe it's the day itself. Previously, he would look forward to the time we spent together. He feels that he's changed a lot in the last year, and the time we didn't spend together, because to the epidemic, taught him that he can exist without me. He says he could spend months without seeing me and still be happy. I asked him if he still wanted to be with me. He said yes. He replied that he still loves me and wants to remain with me, but that he is hesitant. I believe he has an issue with the relationship, but I don't believe he understands what the problem is. I asked him some difficult questions tonight, and I can see he still cares about me. He told me that he wants to make us work, but is at a loss as to how. He knows I adore him and has told me several times that he doesn't believe there is anybody more suited to him than me. I adore him and really want us to be together. I'm not sure what I can do to rekindle his enthusiasm for our relationship. He requested some space for the following week, which I agreed to provide. I also advised him to consider what he wants from a relationship. It's strange to think about this circumstance since I've heard about it and seen it in movies but never expected it to happen in my own life. I felt we were made for one another. We have mutual respect and are drawn to one another. I never had a negative feeling about him or our connection. I suppose he sees our connection negatively, therefore every time we hang together, he has a bad time. I understand that everyone has various perspectives on relationships. Maybe I'm naive, but I feel that if two people love and care for one another, they should remain together. What did you do to make things better if you've been in a similar situation?